All right. What do we got here? Republicans just voted unanimously to block the release of the Epstein files. So yeah, this was a bill put forward by, I believe, Ro Khanna in the House, saying like we should see what's in the Epstein files, right? Let's see. And the Democrats are seemingly being stubborn on this, smelling a political opportunity. You know what? Good job, Democrats. Finally, you sense an opportunity to show a backbone and show a spine in order to try to, I don't know, go after the Republicans, to go after Trump in some way, shape, and form. I mean, obviously, it wasn't going to go through. Obviously not. Like, the broader Republican Party more than likely knows that, yeah, Trump's more than likely in there, given his, like, current behavior. His dumbass is in there, and he doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want to get completely and utterly cooked, right? You hate seeing a goat being fucking washed and shit like that. You know, silly, like, memes and hyperbole aside. Yeah, voting unanimously to block the release of the Epstein files. Not a great look for you, Republicans, especially considering the fact that the base itself are not very happy about this. They're going to be fucking feeling betrayed about this. I don't know, like more and more instances of like what? Like potentially Republicans doing worse and worse during the midterms. Hey, you know, you take what you can get, right?
On this vote, the yeas are 211, the nays are 210. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Lovely. I don't know why they do like a sort of like voice count thing in order to do votes. Like, whatever. Silly. What we got here? Republicans move to block Democratic effort to force release of Epstein files. Lovely. Republican lawmakers have moved to block Democratic effort to force the release of the so-called Epstein files, a near-mythological trove of undisclosed information about the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein at the center of an internal political war among U.S. conservatives. Democrats had been pressing for an amendment to cryptocurrency legislation that would have forced the release of information and exhibits itemized in a list of evidence held by the Justice Department from the 2019 sex trafficking case against the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. That's the evidence list. Okay. Cool. Donald Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, teased a full accounting of the Epstein evidence, including a purported client list earlier this year. So that was a Fox News interview that she had in about, I think it was February, saying like, I have the files, you know, we're going to be ready to release it when we look through it and stuff. Then like 3 months a bit passes. They do like their stupid little photo op with like Chaya Raichik and DC Drano. They open up the folders themselves. Everything, it was like pretty much like completely redacted. There was like no information at all in there. So, you know, fell for it again award as always for Donald Trump and the Republican. Well, not for just for the Republicans voters, generally speaking. And then it decides to like come up again with Donald Trump saying like, you guys are still talking about the Epstein files. Why are you saying it? And that Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi said like there was no fucking client list. But it's just like, dog, there's no fucking way he didn't keep a client list, right? Someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who was, I think he used to be like a university teacher or something, or like a high school teacher, and then became like a very rich financier for some reason, which is just like, that's a little interesting, a little weird, when he had like no experience at all with financing. Like, everyone knows that something sussy's going on, okay? There's some fucking bullshit that's happening. No, like, Jeffrey Epstein's real job was to just be an information broker for the rich, right? And, well, generally speaking, how the rich like to keep one another accountable is through, well, blackmail of one another, generally speaking. Saying, like, listen, if you fuck with me, I have this information. But if I fuck with you, you have that information on me. So we're not going to fuck with each other all that much. You know, that's, like, the basis of, like, billionaire sort of, like, class solidarity. Even though it's, like, mostly through child sex rings and stuff like that. Crazy. But yeah, like, the stuff was supposed to release. They said there was nothing in there. They just said, like, no, there's nothing in there. Everyone's just like, bullshit. There's stuff in there. You're full of it. Fucking release the goddamn information. Everyone gets really pissed about it. And, well, here we are now with everyone talking about what was really in the fucking goddamn Epstein files. You know, you love to see it. Where it's just like a complete fucking shit show now for the Republicans, who have just handled this in like the worst way possible. Like, they could have done like more teasing of like information or something. Like, they could have like dragged this out for like time immemorium, but they just said like, no, smile. And it's just like, okay, like, this is just like a huge blunder. This is malfeasance at this point. Like, what are you people doing? But 10 days ago, she changed course when she announced that the Trump administration had reviewed the evidence, concluded that Epstein had indeed killed himself in jail, and decided not to release the contents that the Justice Department said included thousands of hours of video depicting child sexual abuse. Again, the thing is with that fucking goddamn camera footage that we know, there's about a minute that was cut off. The metadata suggests that minute was more than likely cut out via editing software. Right? And that's, like, we have evidence of that. So, again, people are not fucking buying this shit, right? They're just like, bullshit, right? You guys are just trying to do a cover-up. I think that's, like, I don't think that's, like, hyperbolic or ridiculous to say. Yeah, it is a cover-up. It's probably, like, the most stupid, incompetent fucking cover-up ever. But, like, hey, you know, if you were expecting confidence, and, like, not confidence, but competence from the Trump administration to electric fucking boogaloo, man, do I have a fucking bridge to sell you. That set off a firestorm within Trump's conspiracy-minded Make America Great Again movement that the president has since tried to calm. It's not working. Democrats had weighed in on the issue, hoping to force a release of the documents. The question with Epstein is, whose side are you on? California Democratic U.S. House member Ro Khanna, the author of the Epstein measure, told Axios, are you on the side of the rich and powerful, or are you on the side of the people? Can't really have said it much better myself there, Ro Khanna, you know? Yeah, you talk your shit, King. Let's be honest here. We all know why they're fucking doing this. It's because he's implicated, right? He's implicated. He's in the fucking files. That's why they're trying as hard as possible to make sure that this does not see the fucking light of day. Khanna promised to introduce the amendment again and again and again. The Republicans on the House Rules Committee voted down the amendment that would have allowed Congress to vote on whether the evidence, which includes microcassettes, DVDs, CDs, including one labeled Girl Pics Nude Book 4, computer hard drives, and 3 massage tables in green, beige, and brown, should be released. Yet the federal case against Epstein, which dates back to 2005 and involved a mysterious plea deal that allowed the financier to plead guilty to Florida state charges of solicitation of a minor, continues to challenge which political hardliners on the right and left believe is evidence of a nefarious nexus of international power. This was the shit with specifically Jim Acosta, right? Jim Acosta had a fucking opportunity to just get Epstein, get him done and dusted, takes the fucking goddamn plea deal for some reason, and whoa, ends up in Donald Trump's administration. That's a little weird. You know, because he was Attorney General of Florida at the time. Which is like, that's a little suspicious. The debacle has pitted Bondi and Trump, who was friends with Epstein, his Florida neighbor for many years, before disavowing him, against the deputy FBI director Dan Bongino. Bongino repeatedly clashed with Bondi over the Epstein case and considered resigning as megaphones, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Megyn Kelly, have called for the release of the Epstein files. And again, Dan Bongino, you want to know why he got so fucking popular in particular? It's because he's been pushing fucking Epstein fucking conspiracism. That's why. Again, we all know why they're fucking blocking this. They're trying to make sure that their dumbass president, commander-in-chief doesn't get fucking implicated in any of this stuff because, whoa, guess what? More than likely, if he gets implicated, a bunch of them are probably going to go down with him, all right? Who knows about all the like ridiculous fucking powerful people that are located within those files within that fucking goddamn client list. Trump doesn't want any of that stuff to get out into the public because, again, he's more than likely implicated, and also a lot of other billionaires may also potentially come after him. That's another angle that people might need to also consider. Again, the point of like Jeffrey Epstein is to have the guy who holds the blackmail on everybody else, right? So that they all, well, act in line. In 2023, Bongino said on his right-wing podcast that Jeffrey Epstein's story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on it. The Daily Beast reported that Trump is furious at Bongino, who has not shown up for work since the 9th of July after a shouting match erupted between him and Bondi. Trump has sided with Bondi, leaving Bongino's future at the FBI open to question, and the Vice President, J.D. Vance, was evidently called in to mediate, according to CNN. Woof. Trouble in fucking paradise, I guess. I mean, Bongino is probably not going to be too upset about leaving the fucking goddamn FBI, because again, you know, he was complaining about the amount of like paperwork that he was having to do. Damn, it turns out doing a fucking office job within the goddamn government is very tedious, and there's a lot of fucking work that you have to do. A lot of stuff, a lot of chickens you need to keep in order, and kind of a deal, you know? A lot of regulations you need to follow, because again, that stuff kind of tends to be very, very important, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Way easier to do your dumb fuck conspiracy theory podcast, right? Those developments unfolded as a recent CNN poll found that half of Americans are dissatisfied with the amount of information the government has released on the Epstein case. The poll found that Democrats and independents were relatively equal in the sense of dissatisfaction at 56% and 52% respectively, but Republicans polled at 40% dissatisfaction. Oof. Damn, again, with the fraught-fraying political coalition that fucking Trump has, 40% dissatisfaction? It's not a great look. Not a great look. Just 3% of those polled said they were satisfied with the amount of Epstein-related information released by the government. 3% were satisfied with the information. Whee. Not good. Not good, folks. That's pretty bad. On Monday, the drama turned to the British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted co-conspirator in the sex trafficking case, who has appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold a non-prosecution agreement contained in Epstein's Florida plea deal. The U.S. Justice Department petitioned the court to deny Maxwell, 63, who is serving a 20-year sentence, the request. I'd be surprised if President Trump knew his lawyers were asking the Supreme Court to let the government break a deal, Maxwell's attorney, David Oscar Marcus, said in a statement emailed to The Guardian. He's the ultimate deal maker. Oh, I'm sure. And I'm sure he'd agree that when the United States gives its word, it should keep it. With all the talk about who's being prosecuted and who isn't, it's especially unfair that Ghislaine Maxwell remains in prison because on a promise the government made and broke. Sure, man. Again, you just want your, like, weirdo fucking, I don't know, the Epstein girlfriend who, I don't know, got the girls who Epstein made victims of out and about in the fucking street to probably, like, I don't know, abuse more fucking children or some shit. It's fucking ridiculous. But Congress could now call on Maxwell to testify. Citing anonymous sources, the Daily Mail reported on Monday that Maxwell is interested in doing that. Ooh. A testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell to Congress. That could potentially be interesting. Juicy. Drama. In some circumstances, under Federal Rule 35, a convicted felon can negotiate a reduction in sentence in exchange for cooperation. Yeah, she starts fucking singing potentially, could get less time in jail. That's cool. Great fantastic. Nonetheless, the government has shown little interest in doing that, especially when Maxwell was maintaining her innocence and appealing her conviction. Prosecutors made clear at the time that they considered the case closed and would not go further after lesser alleged figures in the sex trafficking conspiracy. Trying to fucking basically deflect, if I were to sort of say. Because, again, co-conspirator. was one of Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriends. You're telling me that she had fucking nothing to do with any of this stuff? Yeah, right. It all depends on who she would be cooperating against and what she has to offer. Defense attorney Jeffrey Lichtman told the government after Maxwell's conviction in 2021, I would not be surprised if she had already tried to cooperate and it had failed. Of all the people supposedly involved with Epstein, 99% of them never made it into the government's evidence, Lichtman added, venturing that the government may have been trying to avoid any frolic by the jury, that they'd be distracted by the bold-faced names. But many people didn't get prosecuted here when it seems like they could have. Well, that's a little suspicious. Okay, there's just like a big thing on the bottom here. So, well, we have a bunch of other people sort of like fraying now within the elite positions of the government itself, I suppose, of the administration. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is now calling for the release of the Epstein files. One of the main guys who helped sort of pass your big, beautiful bill is now potentially in support of Ro Khanna's amendment. Yikes. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has urged U.S. President Donald Trump to release concealed documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, marking a significant break in support from an otherwise staunch Republican ally. Johnson's call on Benny Johnson's podcast, that's, all right, say that 5 times fast, comes days after Trump blamed Democrats for the creation of the Epstein files and attempted to shut down demands for their release. Again, it's just a complete fucking deflection. Like, let's be honest here. It's not the Democrats who fucking released that shit. They're not touching that shit with a 10-foot pole because they know that motherfuckers like Bill Clinton are more than likely implicated in the Epstein files. So they are not touching that with a 10-foot pole. They're getting nowhere near that. So, again, you're the one, Trump, who decided to make this a campaign promise of yours, saying like, I'm going to release it. I'll do it. And, well, here are those chickens coming home to roost. Conspiracies around Epstein's 2019 death and potential evidence in his criminal case continue to swirl, as his administration refuses to share so-called files. The president's seesawing approach to the Epstein inquiry is causing a rift between his supporters, including Johnson, who on Tuesday called on Trump to deliver on his promise to expose the full scope of Epstein's criminality, which the president himself has campaigned to uncover. Again, like I said before, this is pretty much the straw that broke the fucking camel's back, right? This right here. Him promising to say, like, oh yeah, I'll release the Epstein files, and then, like, immediately backing off on it, and now seemingly being very, very defensive and in posture and being very afraid about releasing information on stuff that he promised to release. That's not resonating well with his, supporters. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it, Johnson said with Benny Johnson. I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. He continued, adding that Attorney General Pam Bondi needs to explain why she had not presented Epstein-related documents she had previously said were sitting on my desk. That's true. Again, that Fox News interview back in like February. Again, sealing the fate on this. She needs to come forward and explain that to everyone, he continued. We need the DOJ focusing on major priorities, so let's get this thing resolved. Despite growing tensions between the president and some high-level supporters, their willingness to criticize him was not reflected in a vote brought by Democrats to change legislation in a matter that would legally require the government to make the Epstein files public. Well, I mean, Ro Khanna is more than likely going to keep introducing that amendment in for a vote over and over and over and over again. But again, how long are the Republicans going to be able to maintain the fucking facade? Their supporters are very, very fucking angry about this, right? They're eventually going to buckle, if I were to take a guess. So again, Democrats have a good opportunity here to show spine and keep asking for the release of those fucking files. Who the hell cares about the fact that, Bill Clinton is in there, okay? The only reason why the Democrats didn't release the fucking Epstein files is because of, their complete utter deference to fucking seniority, okay? Bill Clinton's not even that popular, alright? Fuck him. Who gives a shit? His ass is fucking grass anyways. Who the fuck cares about Bill Clinton? The current president of the United States, is more than likely implicated in, well, potential like child sex trafficker fucking king Jeffrey fucking Epstein. And this is a great opportunity for them to just sort of expose it and be like, well, I think the case is more or less closed here, and just get like just get him, just get him. The result was 211 to 210. One Republican vote could have tipped the scale in favor of releasing the files. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a far-right candidate, a far-right Georgia Republican, has been vocal about the release of the files, voted against the legislation. She hasn't broken yet, right? Like, again, eventually these guys are going to, like, fall like flies, or they're just going to capitulate anyways and just, go along with the party line anyways. It depends. We don't really know what's going on in the back rooms with whatever potential wheeling and dealing that might be going on here. But, I mean, the Speaker of the House asking for the release of the Epstein files, there may be some buckling there. According to NBC, she said she wanted to get a private viewing of the Epstein files and had previously advocated for them to be released to the public. I'd like to see all the information come out, she said. Despite losing the vote, Democrats appear to be latching onto the scandal by demanding that the records be released and trolling Republicans on social media, in news shows, and in the U.S. House, with some noting the president's connection to Epstein. Based? Oh, well, the Lincoln Project's obviously going to point this shit out. Wonder why we're not getting that list. The anti-Trump and Lincoln Project posted on X with a photo of Trump and Epstein together. Trump has acknowledged that knowing Epstein socially in the 1990s, but said they had a falling out many years ago. Sure, man. You guys are trying yourself into knots, trying to find a way to avoid dealing with this issue, said Jim McGovern. In a Truth Social post on Wednesday, Trump attempted to consolidate Republican support. Yeah, this is the same, crash out that Trump had, right? We took a look through this. I have to deflect, talk about Russia. I have to talk about the Steele dossier, the Mueller report, which was all bullshit. And it's just like, well, that wasn't bullshit, but, whatever. Again, he has to deflect because he knows that more than likely, I might be caught by this. So where are the Epstein files? For months, top officials in the U.S. administration, including Bonnie, have promised to share new information detailing the former financier's criminal activity, but they have yet to drop any files that weren't already known to the public. Last week, Bondi, after repeatedly promising to share Epstein's client list, denied its existence and ruled his death a suicide, while multiple unproven theories to the contrary still float around the internet. Right? Yeah, this is going to be the overall fucking summary of what she said. Yeah, him talking about, Donald Trump talking about what? The Democrats saying that they created the Epstein files. They didn't. That's the broader intelligence apparatus has done that. And again, his supporters saying, that Trump is out of touch. Cool, lovely. Well, again, the Republicans doing everything possible to try to, tie themselves into a pretzel to an issue that should be more or less a slam dunk for them, but they're just they can't bring themselves to betray fucking dear leader. This really was a wholeheartedly completely unforced error by Trump, to be honest, because again, he made it a campaign promise. He didn't have to make it a campaign promise, but he did, and now, well, this is the byproduct and consequences of that, because he himself recognizes that, oh shit, I'm probably in those files. I'm definitely in those files because I knew Epstein pretty well, and I went to Little St. James more than likely. So don't release it. It'd be really bad for me. Don't do it. And well, that's why he now is backing off of one of his greatest promises to his one of his more rabid sort of core constituencies, the more conspiratorial right wingers. So, that's cool. That's great that, we find ourselves in this position where it's just a complete utter shit show now. I'm here for it, okay? Great. Let them sweat. Let them panic. Fantastic. Excellent. This is great. I'm very glad that the Republicans are tying themselves into complete fucking knots to try to do everything possible to make sure that this information does not get released. So, Great, fantastic, very, very good. Please, like, continue, like, making complete asses of yourselves and potentially implicating yourselves further in the Jeffrey Epstein files, like, and not calling for their fucking release. Honestly, Republicans, this is going to be a great sort of like political winner for you guys that you guys should keep talking about and keep going forward with. This is going to play very, very well for you guys in the fucking midterms, of which you guys are potentially going to see huge consequences and backlashes for not only your policies, but now this stuff that's going on with Jeffrey Epstein. So, personally, I am of the opinion that Democrats should not relent. They should do everything possible to push for the release of the goddamn Epstein files and, well, implicate that dumbass Trump, because his ass was definitely in those fucking files, okay? No cap, no hyperbole. It's not ridiculous to fucking saying that shit, alright? He was definitely in that stuff. And he knows that, well, it might be really bad for me if that information comes out. I might be completely and utterly cooked. So, again, keep pushing for it. Do everything possible to get that information. And, just get him. Get him. Get him. This is going to make Republicans look really, 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 really bad. So, personally, in my opinion, keep pushing for the release of the fucking Epstein files, because it's going to do it's doing a great job at making the Republicans look as good as possible to their core constituents. And like I said before, they're only going to maintain this for so long. The question then becomes is, when are they going to start buckling to public pressure? Because there's going to be a lot of public pressure. A lot of influencers are mad about this. There's a lot of fallout that's going on as a result in terms of core MAGA constituencies, the core base of, well, Donald Trump. But yeah, keep trying to deflect for as long as possible. It's definitely going to make you look real good. I think that's broadly speaking all I got to say about this.